Welcome back to part 2 of my 3-part video on the WWE 2025 year in review. So in last week's video we left off with John Cena becoming the WWE Champion for the 17th time. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in today's video. So as the year goes on, we're going to talk about, as the year WWE 2025 went on, we're going to go from April to SummerSlam in this video. So some of the big moments that stick out to me was John Cena's heel run. I mentioned this last week's video that it was kind of cool to see him finally turn heel, but there were some moments, there were some things I didn't quite like about John Cena being heel. I thought he should have had a new theme song. I thought that would have been cool to kind of see maybe John Cena do like a collab with that rapper. What's his name? Travis Scott? I think that's his name. I don't know much about rap, so I think that's his name. I'm not really sure. I like to listen to rock music, so, but anywho, yeah, so that would have been kind of cool to see John Cena maybe like do a new theme song, but he didn't really do that. And of course, when he won the 17th title, they were kind of teasing him bringing back the spinner belt, and he never did that either. And you had The Rock. You thought there was going to be more of The Rock in this heel run, and that didn't really happen either. So, yeah. So what was kind of nice about this heel run was seeing John Cena have some final matchups with like some of his longtime rivals. If you hear that noise in the background, it's currently in the middle of winter that I'm filming this, so that's probably my heater that you're hearing right now. Just ignore that. If it was summertime and you hear a noise in the background, it would be my air condition, but it's winter, you probably are hearing the heater. But anywho, so like I was saying, John Cena was like having matches, matches with like many people, many of his old rivals. Of course, he ended up facing Randy Orton. That was pretty cool. I remember there was a time where I would have been sick of seeing another John Cena versus Randy Orton match. But this match actually was like one that I was okay with seeing because it was a little while and they had their final match. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Had some pretty cool moments. I gotta say, John Cena as a heel, though, hearing some of his promos as a heel were pretty awesome. And, trying to think what else happened. Oh, yeah. So, of course, John Cena had one last match with CM Punk. And, I guess if we're going to talk about this, we gotta talk about the thing that happened with R-Truth. Of course, around Money in the Bank time, John Cena... Well, R-Truth was kind of like a comedic character for like a while. And then, for some reason, WWE decided to release R-Truth. And then they brought him back. And he became Ron Killings for a while, which was his old gimmick from before he was in WWE. Of course, Ron Killings is his real name. So it was pretty cool to see like R-Truth get that push for a little while. And of course he feuded with John Cena, and then shortly after they kind of like just dropped the angle, I guess. So R-Truth went back to being a comedic character, which of course that is something that WWE does a lot these days. They start storylines and then they drop it. So yeah, so there's that. He had one last match with CM Punk. I thought that was pretty cool. The promos, doing like some of the throwbacks to what they did from 2011. Seeing John Cena do a pipe bomb promo on CM Punk. That was pretty cool. I remember watching that. I remember I was in like high school when the summer of John Cena versus Punk happened in 2011. So that was pretty cool to see like them touch back to some of those moments. I love that part of the heel run. And of course we get to SummerSlam, the main event of SummerSlam, John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. They had the rematch. And Cody Rhodes ends up winning the WWE Championship back. And at the end of the match, surprise, Brock Lesnar returns. And it was like a holy OMG moment. Did not think Brock Lesnar would be back in WWE because he was like part of the scandal, the thing going on. His name was like mentioned, and yeah, not gonna get too into that right now. And yeah, so I'm gonna talk more about this later in next week's video. And now we're gonna continue to talk about Jey Uso. Of course, Jey Uso was like the world champion. And then he ended up facing Gunther again in a rematch on Raw. And Gunther ends up winning back the world title. And yeah. So Gunther ends up Gunther or Gunther, I don't know. I think some people pronounce it Gunther and some people pronounce it Gunther. I don't know. So he ends up facing Goldberg, and Goldberg has his retirement match on Saturday Night Main Event. And of course, when there's backlash in WWE, when there's like fans are hating on something, for some reason, instead of WWE trying to do something to fix it, they double down on it, I noticed. So a lot of fans were disappointed with this match, with Gunther retiring Goldberg, and of course they doubled down on Gunther becoming the guy that retires wrestlers. More on that later in next week's video, but yeah. And Gunther ends up facing CM Punk at SummerSlam for the world title. Oh, but earlier, we gotta rewind a little bit. Seth Rollins ends up winning Money in the Bank, and he ends up hurting his knee. Of course, this was a fake injury. I believe it was a fake injury. It was a storyline injury. And we have CM Punk versus Gunther. And CM Punk ends up winning the World Heavyweight title. And then after the match, Seth Rollins comes out. You think he's injured. And then he drops the crutches and comes running down and cashes in Money in the Bank. And it was a pretty cool moment. Of course, we'll talk a little bit more about the CM Punk and Seth Rollins rivalry in next week's video. But yeah, that was a pretty cool moment. Of course, yeah, I think that was a pretty good moment. I'm trying to think of anything else I want to cover in this section of the video. So, had a little bit of a glitch when I was doing the outro to this video. So I edited that part out, and I'm going to be putting this part in. Subscribe for next week's video. Next week's video, I'm going to be giving you it's going to be the final part of this video series I'm doing. I'm going to give you more of my thoughts on CM Punk, Gunther, and John Cena's last run in the WWE. So subscribe for that.